Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching News at 10. I'm Nur Zamri, making the headlines tonight. Special Aidilfitri aid for farmers, fishermen and rubber smallholders. Government aiming for more youth involvement in digital economy. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today announced several additional initiatives in Budget 2023. Datuk Seri Anwar, when tabling the Supply Bill 2023 or the National Budget for the second reading in the Dewan Negara today, said the new additional initiatives involve Aidilfitri assistance, an extension of individual tax relief and the provision of housing credit through the Syarikat Jaminan Kredit Perumahan SJKP.
Saya bersetuju untuk menyalurkan bantuan khas keuangan Aidilfitri kepada 850,000 orang pekebun kecil getah, pesawah dan nelayan sebanyak RM200 lagi tambahan daripada yang telah diumumkan. Ini akan menelan belanja RM170 juta.
Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also the Finance Minister, said the increase is the biggest aid the government has ever given to fishermen, paddy farmers and rubber smallholders in the country. Apart from that, Datuk Seri Anwar also said that 200,000 volunteers under the Malaysian Volunteer Corps Department RELA, Civil Defence Force as well as police and fire volunteers will also receive RM300 for Aidilfitri.
Ini pengumuman baru. Sebab saya sebut tadi, Tan Sri Betul, ada kategori bila teliti tidak dapat manfaat yang sama. Kategori ini adalah sukarelawan. Termasuk rela, Angkatan Pertahanan Awam, sukarelawan polis dan sukarelawan bomba. Dia berbeza daripada pekerja tetap. Jadi sukarelawan ataupun polis bantuan itu tak termasuk, tapi kategori sukarelawan ini 200,000 orang yang tidak mendapat manfaat. Jadi sukarelawan uniform, mereka juga hadapi masalah menjelang Aidilfitri, maka saya setuju untuk memberikan sagu hati kepada mereka sebanyak 300,000.
The Prime Minister also said the government would also give priority to fill public service positions in critical sectors, especially health and education, and this is expected to involve an additional expenditure of up to RM800 million this year. The Prime Minister also announced that starting 1st of April this year, the government will expand the target of the SJKP housing credit to fixed and irregular income groups to have their first home. Datuk Seri Anwar said it is an initiative that is expected to benefit the B40 and M40 groups.
Ialah belanjawan 2023. Skim Syarikat Jaminan Kredit Perumahan SJKP telah ditambah baik dengan meningkatkan dana jaminan pembiayaan daripada RM3 bilion kepada RM5 bilion untuk membantu pembeli rumah kali pertama, terutamanya mereka yang tidak berpendapatan tetap. Mulai 1 April 2023, kerajaan akan memperluaskan sasaran SJKP, Syarikat Jaminan Kredit Perumahan, bagi merangkumi kedua-dua golongan berpendapatan tetap dan tidak tetap untuk memiliki rumah pertama mereka.
Datuk Seri Anwar also announced the extension of individual income tax relief of up to RM8,000 for net savings in the National Education Savings Scheme SSPN until 2024. According to Datuk Seri Anwar, this will incur losses of RM250 million per year in the government's revenue, but will benefit approximately 400,000 taxpayers. All members of Dewan Rakyat from both the government and the opposition will have to undergo a health check once a year, starting from the next session of the Dewan Rakyat in May. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the matter was among the items decided in the Agenda Nasional Malaysia Sihat ANMS Cabinet Committee meeting, which he chaired today. He said this is decided after taking into account the fact that a total of 9 elected representatives comprising MPs and assemblymen who died while serving in 2018 to 2020 due to non-communicable diseases such as kidney complications and heart attacks.
Tetapi jawatankuasa telah mencadangkan agar medical check-up ni diadakan 2 kali setahun kepada sekali setahun ketika persidangan Dewan Rakyat berjalan di bangunan parlimen ini. So insya-Allah saya sendiri akan tampil dengan rakan-rakan jemaah menteri untuk menawarkan diri bagi kesihatan kami dilakukan ya.
He said this in a press conference, which was also attended by Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa at the Parliament building today. Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid said that members of the Senate may also be considered to do so. The Communications and Digital Ministry, KKD, intends to attract more people to be involved in the digital economy through the Digital Economy Centre PayD platform that has the potential to advance the economy of the people, especially the youth. Its Minister Fahmi Fazil said for that purpose, the thinking on PayD operations needs to be changed from just being a community internet centre to a digital economy catalyst centre.
Saya lihat terutama di kalangan anak muda, potensi ekonomi digital ni very real dan memang sangat membantu. Ada yang sebelum mereka memahami cara nak menjual secara online, menggunakan aplikasi seperti Shopee, TikTok dan sebagainya, pendapatan dia mungkin 600, tapi setelah mereka tahu caranya, ada yang berpendapatan 5,000 ke atas. Jadi potensi dia sangat tinggi.
He said this to reporters after visiting Seberang Terus PayD at Sukamenanti State Constituency in Al-Rustar today, which was also attended by KKD Secretary General Datuk Sri Muhammad Mente. Fahmi said the ministry will also look into the possibility of improving the small entrepreneur digitalisation empowerment program Pupuk by taking into account the current technological developments. In the meantime, he said KKD plans to open 186 new PayD across the country, and as of that number, 4 PayD will be open in 4 state constituency in Kedah. Still ahead, Kuwait Criminal Court sentences Jolo to 10 years in prison. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim arrived in Hainan to attend the BUA Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2023, BFA 2023, as part of his 4-day official visit to China. The special aircraft carrying the Prime Minister landed at the BUA International Airport at 5:29 p.m. local time. Datuk Sri Anwar is accompanied by Minister of Transport Anthony Loke and Minister of Local Government Development Nga Kormeng. Datuk Sri Anwar later attended an iftar program with about 70 Malaysian delegation members participating in the BFA 2023 before attending a joint meeting with the top leadership of China Communications Construction Company. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister is scheduled to attend a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, before delivering his speech at BFA 2023. He is expected to depart from Beijing in the afternoon to continue his visit to the Chinese capital. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar's 4-day official visit to China from today is expected to open a new chapter in strengthening the strategic relationship between the two countries in a more comprehensive way. This is Datuk Sri Anwar's maiden visit to the East Asian country since taking office last November. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir said this visit is historic and meaningful, considering that the Prime Minister had received an invitation from the Chinese government to visit the Republic only 4 months after being sworn in to lead the new Malaysian government. He said it shows the aspirations of the Chinese government, especially President Xi Jinping, who has just been appointed as President for the third term, to forge closer ties with Datuk Seri Anwar's unity government.
Dijangkakan kedua-dua pemimpin akan memberi tumpuan kepada langkah-langkah ke arah menyemarakkan lagi hubungan dua hala dalam konteks sambutan 10 tahun penubuhan perkongsian strategik komprehensif Malaysia-China dan juga sambutan ulang tahun ke-50 penubuhan hubungan diplomatik Malaysia-China.
Met by Malaysian media, Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri said Datuk Seri Anwar is also one of the first world leaders to visit Beijing after Xi's reappointment earlier this month. The Prime Minister is expected to arrive in Beijing on Thursday evening after attending the Bow Annual Forum for Asia in Hainan. The Malaysian economy is projected to grow between 4 and 5% in 2023, supported by firm domestic demand amidst challenges rising from slowing global growth. Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) in its Economic and Monetary Review 2022 report said continued concerns about the elevated cost of living and input costs, as well as the impact on the behaviour of households and businesses, would add their challenges.
Despite external headwinds, overall growth will be driven by firm domestic demand. Further improvements in employment and income levels, as well as the continued implementation of existing and new multi-year projects, will underpin household spending and investment activity.
In the Central Bank's Annual Report 2022, BNM Governor Tan Sri Nur Shamsiah Muhammad Yunus said the central bank has remained focused in its policy response on managing risks that could undermine the economy's long-term health and the well-being of the people. She said the bank also continued to ensure that the financial sector remains a source of strength for the Malaysian economy. In 2022, Malaysia's gross domestic product, GDP, recorded a moderate growth of 8.7%. Against the backdrop of full upliftment of COVID-19 containment measures, resilient growth in exports, particularly commodity exports, the revival of tourism activity, and continued policy support. Kuwait's criminal court today sentenced a sheikh, his partner, and 2 foreigners named Joe Tiglo and Bashar Kiwan to 10 years imprisonment for the 1MDB fund embezzlement case, the biggest money laundering case in the country so far. The court, led by Chancellor Faisal Al-Harbi, also sentenced a lawyer to 7 years in prison for the same offence. According to Kuwaiti newspaper Al-Kabas, the court also ordered them to pay a fee of 145 million Kuwaiti dinars or 2.9 billion ringgit and a refund of $1 billion or 4.42 billion ringgit. Investigations in the case reveal that almost $1 billion was deposited into the account of an influential Kuwaiti sheikh and that the money had been transferred abroad. The names of the sheikh, the partner, and the lawyer were not disclosed. The public prosecutor asserted that the men were an organised criminal group which laundered money in Chinese currency totaling 343 million renminbi or 4.95 billion ringgit, while being aware that the funds were obtained through stealing, crime and transactions in Malaysian state funds. Police nabbed 21 individuals or locals suspected of being involved in online gambling activities at a condominium in Plaza Arcadia, Desa Park City in Kapong on Sunday. Central District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Police Beh Eng Lai said the suspects, comprising 18 men and 3 women aged between 20 and 45, were arrested at about 3 p.m. and were found to be targeting victims from Hong Kong. Speaking at a press conference today at the Central District Police Headquarters, Assistant Commissioner Police Beh said the syndicate was believed to have started operations in February, operating 12 hours a day from noon. He said 8 of the suspects had criminal records, with one of them, aged 35, served as the syndicate supervisor, whereas the others were customer service officers. Assistant Commissioner Police Beh said the syndicate had successfully received a profit of around 340,000 ringgit in 1 month of operations. He added that police seized various items, among which were 21 computers and 65 handphones, with an estimated worth of 400,000 ringgit. According to him, all of the suspects have been placed under a 4-day remand until tomorrow. Myanmar junta dissolves Suu Kyi's party. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. Myanmar's military government has dissolved the ousted ruling party of former leader Aung San Suu Kyi and 39 other parties over their failure to register for an election said to prolong the army's grip on power. The National League for Democracy is among dozens of parliamentary parties that were severely weakened by the military's 2021 coup against Suu Kyi's elected government and its crackdown on protests against its rule. The polls, for which no date has been announced, will come amid a deepening crisis in Myanmar, where the military is fighting on multiple fronts to crush ethnic minority armies and resistance movement formed to counter its lethal suppression of anti-coup opposition. In January, the military gave political parties 2 months to re-register under a strict new electoral law ahead of fresh polls. It has promised to hold, but which its opponents say will be neither free nor fair. Out of 90 existing parties, only 50 had applied to re-register under the new rules, while the rest would be dissolved. The election is almost certain to be swept by the Union Solidarity and Development Party, a military proxy that was trounced by the National League for Democracy in the 2015 election, and in 2020 vote that the generals eventually avoided, citing unaddressed irregularities. India showed off domestically made helicopters, drones and artillery at a gathering of army chiefs and officials from 31st African nations today, as the world's largest arms importer seeks to become a major exporter as well. India has pumped billions into its defense sector in an effort to become less reliant on imports, including from Russia. At the same time, it has been trying to sell more of its domestically produced hardware to other countries, particularly poorer nations unable to afford more expensive Western-made kit. Today, the Indian military showed off the goods on offer with a simulated operation featuring commandos assembling from helicopters, armoured vehicles and bomb disposal robots. Also on display in Pune in Western India, the country's key defence manufacturing hub, were assault rifles, artillery shells and models of missiles. The gathering, which followed 9 days of joint military drills with soldiers from 23 African countries, included delegates from Ethiopia, Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, Rwanda and South Africa. The country aims to more than double its annual arms exports to $5 billion in the coming years, from about $1.7 billion currently. The crab covered in oil creeps across the sun as Philippine fishermen wearing white protective suits scrape toxic sludge from the rocks along the shore. 4 weeks after a fin tanker loaded with 800,000 litres of thick oil sank off the central island of Mindoro, the vessel is still leaking. More than half the oil has been discharged and dispersed over hundreds of kilometres of waters, famed for having some of the most diverse marine life in the world. It took 2 days for the spill to reach Buhay na Tubig, a remote village in Pola, one of the island's worst affected municipalities. Some villages got sick after oil smeared the shoreline, turning rocks black and leaving dark cliffs on the beach. Authorities have banned fishing and swimming indefinitely, leaving thousands of fishermen wondering how long they can survive. For more than 2 weeks, fishermen have spent 4 hours a day cleaning up oil in exchange for a daily wage of over $6 from the government, a little over half for what they used to make from fishing. The Princess Empress was found last week by a Japanese remotely operated underwater vehicle at a depth of nearly 400 meters. It had suffered extensive structural damage after sinking on 28th of February. 7 out of 8 cargo tanks have leaked, and of those, 4 are already empty. El Salvador condemned the action of detention center staff in Mexico during a fire that killed at least 38 migrants, including several Salvadorans, and demanded a thorough investigation. Migrants from Central and South America were killed in the fire. They broke out late on Monday at the migrant center in the Mexican border city of Ciudad Juarez. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said authorities believe the blaze, one of the deadliest migrant disasters in years, broke out after some migrants set fire to mattresses in a protest after discovering they would be deported. A video went viral on social media showing 3 people at the center in what appeared to be official uniforms made no attempt and failed to open a cell door as the fire began and men kicked desperately on the bus of locked door. The government of El Salvador expressed its strongest condemnation of the actions of the personnel of the migration station. Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard said he had been informed that those directly responsible had been turned over to investigators. Coming up in sports, McTominay double gives Scotland famous win over Spain. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Hyo sees the rationale for the Office of the Olympic Council of Malaysia, OCM, to be moved to a new location in the Kuala Lumpur sports city, Bukit Jalil. He was given a tour of the Council's current headquarters at Jalan Hang Jebat by OCM President Tan Sri Muhammad Norzal Zakaria today. The building, built on a 0.73 hectare plot in 1991, houses OCM's office, Olympic Hotel, Olympic Sports Museum, an indoor arena, as well as the offices of various national sports associations. Yo said it would be more suitable for OCM to be based at the Kuala Lumpur Sports City, where the majority of sports facilities are located, so that it would be easier for OCM to monitor all sports activities and the performance of athletes.
Untuk masa hadapan, saya juga bersetuju bahawa lokasi ini sudah tidak berapa sesuai untuk peranan yang dimainkan oleh OCM. Jadi kita kena melihat perancangan bukan sahaja sekarang tetapi untuk 10, 20, 30 tahun yang akan datang. Dan saya juga satu sehaluan dengan Tan Sri Noza, saya percaya bahawa sukan kita juga perlu melalui proses modernisasi. Okay? Dan kita kena mulakan proses itu dengan fasiliti dulu.
Yo said she would look into the development model and costs involved before she brings the matter to the cabinet. The idea is for the government to improve OCM a plot of land in Bukit Jalil to build the new headquarters. National head coach Kim Pan-gon feels his squad has shown great improvement, even though their performance has not reached the desired heights after defeating Hong Kong 2-0 in a Tier 1 international friendly at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium last night. Pan-gon said Harimau Malaya's winning habit at home saw laughter when they were losing to Bahrain 1-2 in the 2023 Asian Cup qualifying round in Kuala Lumpur in June last year made him happy. However, the 53-year-old South Korean said the team had not been able to maintain the intensity of the game, describing his men needed to prolong stability as well as aggressiveness.
First game, we already much improved. Second game, I want to give as much as possible to give player everybody maximize. If I can use, all the substitution, we want to maximize, give all the players chance to compete themselves. So I think still we have room to improve.
In a clash against 146th ranked Hong Kong, Muhammad Akhyar Abdul Rashid and Muhammad Faisal Abdul Halim each scored in the first half to help Malaysia bag the second win during the FIFA international match window this month. The Harimau Malaya squad also defeated the 135th ranked team Turkmenistan 1-0 at the same venue last Thursday. Scotland's squad McTominay grabbed another brace of goals as they stunned his much-changed Spain side to earn a deserved 2-0 victory in the Euro 2024 qualifier at Hampden Park and maintain their perfect start to the campaign. McTominay profited from a Pedro Porro slip to score his first goal as Andy Robertson picked up possession in the box and played the ball into his spot, and then got on the end of an excellent run and cross from Kieran Tierney for number 2. Spain coach Luis de la Fuente handed a first start to striker Josu, and he hit the crossbar with a header midway through the opening period on a frustrating night for the visitors when tempers at times threatened to boil over. Scotland might have had a third goal had Lyndon Dykes not cubed his shot over the bar with just keeper Arrizabalaga to beat. Ryan Christie also fired wide when well placed in the first half. The home side's pressing, however, was excellent, forcing Spain into errors as the visitors seemed too determined to pass their way out of trouble, but only sank deeper into it. The win was a first for the Scots over their Iberian opponents since 1984 and ensured their top group on 6 points from 2 games, while second place Spain have 3. The International Olympic Committee (IOC) has issued recommendations for the gradual return to international competitions for Russian and Belarusian athletes as neutrals. President Thomas Bach said their participation works despite the war in Ukraine. The IOC Executive Board's recommendations concern the return of those athletes to international competitions, but not the 2024 Paris Olympics, where a separate decision will be taken at a later date. But said sports organizations must have the sole responsibility to decide which athletes can take part in international competitions based on their sporting merits and not on political grounds or because of their passports. He said the recommendations for events, organizers and sports federations to follow included that Russian and Belarusian athletes can only compete as neutrals, with no flag or anthem. They cannot take part in team events and must have a proven drug testing record, while athletes who support the war or are contracted to the country's military or national security agency are excluded. These recommendations do not include in the 2024 Olympics and the potential participation of Russia and Belarus. The IOC will take this decision at the appropriate time as its full discretion. All right, that concludes this evening's News at 10. In your top story, special Eidul Fitri aid for farmers, fishermen and rubber smallholders. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. Before we go, we'd like to announce that at the beginning of 1st of April, our evening bulletin will be on air at 8:30 p.m. on Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Nur Zamri. It's lights off for now. Good night.